and welcome to another little video about me trying to beat every Gamecube game, and this time it is Crash 4, the real Crash 4 in some cases, because I think the Japanese version was called Crash 4. Here in Europe or America you never had a 4 in its name. And you know, the new game even makes a joke about it, like, haha, isn't it funny that there was never a Crash 4? And then people go like, haha, but there was one, wasn't there? And he's like, nah, there wasn't one. Because apparently, you know, the game is not that great. But, you know, as a kid, I grew up with the classical Crash games on the PlayStation 1, 2, 3. And I always liked 3 the most. Like, I know many people say, oh, it's gimmicky, ooh, disgusting. But I did love it the most. So, for some reason, I never really felt like wanting to play the PlayStation 2 Crash games though, like Twinsanity, Wrath of the Cortex, but now that I'm playing this, you know, that I'm doing this challenge with every Gamecube game, I can finally make them happen. I can finally play them and see for myself if I really do enjoy them. The one thing, right off the bat, this intro cutscene goes on for like 9 minutes. I checked that because I skipped it when I was playing the game, because I was like, so nobody wants to listen to this. So apparently, you know, the story is all the villains from the older Crash games put themselves together. But they don't really fight you, except Cortex at the end. You know, they create like a copy of Crash, and he is like the only boss in the game. Like every boss battle is against this copy of Crash, who looks like the one guy from the... I don't know the names of these enemies. Like, he's like the big tiger kind of person, dude. Anyways, he's a copy. Neo Cortex tried to clone Crash, and that's what came out of it. And all these boss battles, I can already tell you, are freaking terrible. But we will come to those later. So after you get through all the dialogue in the intro cutscene that I skipped through, because as a kid I would have skipped it too, you get this thing where he shows up on the monitor, but even here I skipped it again. You know, and it's like, it kind of already gives you a feeling of like, I just want to game. The thing is, in the older Crash games, I don't think the cutscenes in the intro were so long. It was just, yeah, you know, you can get into the game and boom, you play the game. Here it's like, wow, here's an intro cutscene, and you know, luckily that's like the only cutscene really in the game, except this dialogue sometimes. And you know, we see Coco here. And for everyone who loves Coco, you can play as Coco in stages that are kind of worse, because Coco is a worse version of Crash in this game. And you know, you think, wow, I can finally play as Coco, because in 3 you could play as her and you ride on a tiger. Here you play as her actually, and you know, I can tell you it's not that great. Right from the bat we start in an ice area, and from the start it felt not as great as the older game. Something just felt off. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but it felt worse. It felt like a worse version of Crash from the start. And I can't explain why. It just doesn't feel right. Maybe it's because Crash feels a little bit slower than usual. He doesn't feel as nice as the other games, and I recently even replayed Crash Bandicoot 3. So I can still kind of remember how he felt like. Here it felt like a step backwards for no reason at all, that I can't even I can't explain it. I just can't, you know. Luckily I'm not a professional video game reviewer who has to say, oh, he feels worse because of what. I can just say it's my intuition that he feels worse, because other people have to sadly, you know, say a reason why they think he controls worse. Here it's just like, yeah, I think he controls worse. I said it, and I'm pretty sure most people would agree with me. So anyways, you know, and it also doesn't give you the feeling of evolution. One thing that you felt back in the day was, I want video games to grow with me. I want these video games that I played as a kid to grow even bigger. Like if you play the Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, or 3 games, you saw a difference between 1 and 3. Here you don't see any kind of step forward. The graphics don't make you go wow. The music is like, it kind of exists. The gameplay is very classical, very classical, because in this game after every boss battle you get a power-up, just like in Crash 3, right? And you can guess how many original power-ups this game has. Do you want to guess? If you guess 1, that's the correct answer. Every other hacking power-up in this game, except 1, and it's also the worst one in the whole game, is from the older games. You get the double jump, you get the bazooka, you get, I don't even know, like I don't even know the other ones. I generally don't. Like the worst one in the game is the sneaking one. and you get these sneaking shoes right after defeating the first boss in the game. And do you know what they do? You can sneak, and basically the only reason why you can use them or for what you use them is to sneak around nitro boxes. Like if you sneakily walk around with the Z button pressed, you won't activate nitro boxes, and it just makes you think. I have not used it a single time, and I don't see a single time where I would have used it. I never died to a nitro box, so I didn't do the bonus games, the bonus stages. I think in those maybe they could have helped a little bit, even though they're like 2D, even though, you know, so they wouldn't have helped. But, you know, they thought that's the best we can come up with. That's what you get for defeating the first boss of the game, who is a horrible gimmick boss. But let me tell you, this game is full of gimmicks. If you hated Crash 3 because of its gimmicks, you will hate this game even more. Every stage is sometimes a gimmick. Every second stage, sometimes a gimmick. Every third stage, sometimes a gimmick. This stage, for example, look at the stage. Looks fairly normal, right? Let me fast forward this real quick. I'm not gonna fast forward it. I'm just gonna tell you what happens. I'm gonna fast forward it for myself. Wait and look at this. You go through this level, which is very normal, and suddenly there's a Jeep. And then you go into the Jeep and you have to drive the Jeep. And it's basically like a classical Crash escape kind of level. But for me, that's a little bit gimmicky. You know, I think I always hated those levels. Even the older Crash games, I don't think it's a smart idea to make yourself work forwards. Like, they're not that hard. Like, I don't hate them because they make me fail a lot. It doesn't feel right. I prefer walking from back to front because you see more. Here, for example, with the Jeep, I actually didn't mind it too much because you have a fairly nice amount of view. Like Crash isn't like at the front of the screen like in the other chasing scenes where you basically have to immediately react. But all of these stages that sometimes look very normal to you will throw a gimmick at you. Another one, for example, is this one. Boom, there you go, you're suddenly in a jetpack, which isn't too bad. You kinda get used to it fairly quickly. It's still kinda lame. It's a lame gimmick. But you know, this is not the only gimmick. Suddenly, you will also have to command this thing. Wait a second. Suddenly, the game will tell you to get into the hacking robot Shinji. Here you go. Play the game or level normally, but no, there's a mech. Go inside it and walk around with it. And it is like, can I not just have my normal Crash? The thing is, they don't control badly. It just feels so weird. It's just like, hey, I'm fine in a classical Crash level, and then suddenly I get to play as a mech, which is not even a cool looking one, and the controls of the shooting is a little bit meh. It takes a little bit of, you know, getting used to, because it's like this three-dimensional kind of shooting space suddenly, and it's like, ooh, you know, I get it, but it is. I just want to jump and run, you know. I'm German. In Germany we say jump and run. So jump and run means you jump and you run. You know, in America you say platformer. In the UK you say also platformer, I guess. But here I like to say jump and run, because you jump and run. And what do? Here with these things you jump and run too. But you don't jump and run like a normal human being. I don't play as a human, I play as a Bandicoot. And that's fine, but I just think sometimes these gimmicks should just not happen. Like this stage was fine, it was okay, but then suddenly, you know, play the mech game, play the jetpack game, play the Jeep game, and suddenly it just makes you think, oh, can I not just jump and run normally, please? And there's one gimmick level where the first time I got thrown into the level, it made me think, they can't be serious here. But I will show you that it is actually a good gimmick. Boom, there you go. You suddenly get just thrown into a ball, and you think, oh, this is not Super Monkey Ball, this is Super Crash Bandicoot Ball, or Super Bandicoot Ball, or Bandicoot Ball. Why did I even say Super Bandicoot? I don't know. I recently played Super Mario World again, and maybe the Super is like stuck in my mind. And at first I thought, okay, this is gonna be terrible, because, you know, the controls in the game feel a little bit weird. They don't feel as great as normal jump and running, you know, as the older Crash games. But here, this gimmick is actually one of the more fun ones. Like, it is actually just fun. Some people who don't love balls, I love balls, I have to say it, would probably not like it. It doesn't, you know, it obviously doesn't really feel like Super Monkey Ball, because you don't really control the stage, you really control the ball. And it's fun. It's actually nice. Like, these stages became my favorite stages in the game, except for the boss battle that you have to fight in the hacking ball. And sadly, every boss battle, except maybe this final boss battle, is somewhat of a gimmick fight, which brings me to the bosses that make me go puke mode. But the only other thing that makes me puke mode is that this level has the worst thing that was introduced in Crash 3, the flying stages. There's 3 flying stages. Every single flying stage you fly in a different thing. You're in space, you're suddenly an insect thing. I can show you. Look at this thing. You're suddenly on the back of an insect who can shoot rockets and stuff. And I do think, oh, kinda cool design. It's like a dragonfly, I guess, not just a normal insect. And you shoot these things at the bottom. Luckily, I've done every flying stage first try because they feel brain dead. You can just hold one button and you never really get hit if you don't really want to get hit. And you just hold the button to shoot a rocket, you shoot the rocket here, the other stage has like a machine gun, and it just makes you think. That was the worst part of 3. I hated them in 3 despite loving the game, but in 3 they felt harder. Maybe that's why I hated them, because sometimes you would die and then you would have to restart here them, and here you don't have that because I did them first try despite hating them anyways. Also, the game has a gimmick minecart level and it's actually kind of fun, but sadly there's only one minecart level. This is gimmick I wish they would have used more, but sadly they didn't. You don't really have to jump, you just go left, right, or stay in the middle and you have to avoid things. I just kind of love these kind of mechanics. But, you know, I wanted to talk about the bosses. Look at this boss. You roll around in this gimmick ball, you have to hit the other balls that go around the arena, and you have to make them into your color, and then they fly towards the boss, and that's how you hit him. And I can tell you, playing this boss is as bad as it looks like. He also punches you away, and the thing is, he also tries to hit the balls. So if he hits the ball, he makes the balls go into the other thing again, so you have to connect the balls. So, you know, every time, you know, you did it once, you know, you have to hit 3 balls and then you have 4 balls, and it is kind of annoying. So that's the first boss of the game, and it really doesn't get any better. There's one boss that's also the second boss in the game that's kind of fun. Here we have the second boss of the game, and he's actually a jump and run boss. You actually have to jump and you have to run. The one thing I kind of played badly against him, the hitboxes on this fight are kind of iffy. Like, you have to jump over the platforms, and every time he does an attack, you know, you have to jump over it. Or for example, he shoots something else, you know, you have to jump over that one, and this one you have to duck. The thing is, when you stand on a platform, it goes down, and I always thought if I jump on the platform, I can only jump on them once. After jumping on them once, they disappear. The thing is, that's not true. You can actually duck on the platform, because it only disappears if you stay on it for like 5 seconds or something. So I died a couple of times. Like, I died like 40 times. Luckily, it's a really fast fight. I died like 40 times because I didn't know that, because I was like not testing it, because it's like kind of hard to test it when he shoots like stuff at you and you have to get away from it anyways. But this was a fun fight. Like, this fight was actually a fight that I didn't mind. Like, it made me a little bit because I failed a lot because of it, because I played kind of badly. I was kind of mad at myself, kind of mad at some of the hitboxes sometimes. Then obviously you have your obligatory gimmick mecha fight where you jump into the mech. You have to follow this dude, you punch him with the mech, and then it repeats the same fight again and again and again. And it's like, yeah, cool, I do love me some gimmick. Wowie. Then you have the obligatory flying boss where you shoot at him. Every time, you know, his body like goes into the ghost form, you shoot at where the ghost form appears. Like, sometimes it's only in the hand. Then you shoot the hand, because the thing is, there's your mask spinning around where you can damage him at the moment. You know, I failed once, then the second time I killed him. It wasn't. And then you have the final boss of the game, which was actually a fun challenge, because it is a fun challenge. You know, you wait. The thing is, the Crash DNA mutant dude, he jumps around in the background, he activates like different traps, like, oh, there's fire coming out, and there's like ice coming out, and he shoots stuff at you, like comets, and then, you know, you have to avoid everything, and then at the end, he's like, oh, what do I do now? Then he stands around, you use your bazooka, you shoot him, and then, you know, he punches Neo Cortex because he's bada bada inside of his head, and then you punch Neo Cortex, and then that's how you win the game. A fairly nice boss. I wish most of these bosses would have been like this, where you don't have anything else that makes it less good, where, you know, where you don't just jump and run. One thing I have to say is that the level design is kinda okay. It's not very mind-breakingly numb. It's like also not mind-blowing. But one thing that I, for example, had that felt very obviously bad is that the stages are kinda too wide, which makes it so that sometimes you see an enemy that throws stuff at you where the stage easily allows you to walk around them. Like, it felt like the arena is too wide at certain points and the enemies always have the same pattern. Like in an older Crash game, you would have like one enemy that stands in one place and he makes the whole stage full with fire because he has a flamethrower. And you wouldn't be able to walk around him. You have to wait for him to stop it and then it kill him. But in this game, for example, in this stage you see like many enemies that don't cover all the places. They even sometimes have to put like 2 enemies into the same corridor to actually make it so that you can cover all the places. For example, here you can just run through the middle. You don't even have to go left or right. And that is something that is throughout the whole game. In this stage is very obvious. And it's just something that I instantly noticed, that the corridors are sometimes too wide. And that's what makes it, like, look at this one, you can just walk around the thing that he shoots, you don't even have to get close to him. And it feels like it's too wide, like they should have narrowed it down a little bit. And same here, you know, you don't even have to interact with the enemies. And overall, you know, it didn't feel like an evolution of the genre that you would see. Like if you, for example, grew up around this time, you saw Mario Sunshine. Seeing Mario Sunshine after 64 made you probably think, wow, look at the water, look at the controls. Like obviously Mario Sunshine is one of those things where everyone goes like, you know, they're very split in the middle sometimes. But as a kid I was like, wow, it looks so much better in 64. I love the controls. It is like its next step into the next generation of video gaming. Here it feels like in Crash, they didn't do that kind of jump. They didn't have this jump that Mario had or other platforming games. Like even, for example, Sonic felt more like an evolution. It tried new things. This was basically just treading a path that was already taken by its predecessors. Nothing in this game really makes you feel like, hey, you know, this is only possible on the next generation of consoles. It feels like it could have been possible on the PlayStation 2. Like PlayStation 1, 2. And I think that's why it wasn't like seen as a great game. It's an okay game. I have to say, it is something that makes you think, yeah, it is okay. Nothing more, nothing less. It works. It's not really buggy. You know, I read that the game has, like, a friend told me that the game was like kind of rushed, kind of pushed. But, you know, I don't think giving the developers of this game more time would have really changed anything about it. But again, maybe the game had some bugs, I never really saw any of them, so at least it worked. The game just worked. But again, it never felt like something that made me think, wowee, this is great. And that is kind of sad, you know, I was kind of looking forward. I do know that the other Crash games, Insanity, it actually changes the Crash formula, it actually does something different. And then obviously Crash entered the phase with his tribal tattoo and the Titan mutant things, and I have no idea, you know, one day I will get to see this too. But this game, it was alright. I would say, yeah, it's not the worst, not the best. I think I already said that. I don't have any words. Like, it's just kinda one thing though that still made me kinda what the heck is, for example, some of these worlds are like themed after ice, fire, or anything. Look at this, the first stage you enter is actually an ice stage. Look at this, you know, talk to the mask, I skip it, and the first level in the ice world is an ice level. It makes you think, wow, an ice level in an ice world? That does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? But then, for example, if you enter the second stage of the stage, you suddenly get a laboratory. And you think, you know, oh, maybe the ice is like, the laboratory is like in the ice stage. But the thing is, after that, there's like middle evil stage too. And it doesn't make sense. Like, we have seen that the game starts with an ice stage in the first world, where it's like themed after basically nothing. Like, the themed stages don't mean anything, and it makes me a little bit sad. It makes me think, like, why not put the ice stages together into the ice world? Why not put the lava stages together into the lava world? Why not put the medieval stages together in the medieval stages? Look, obviously, I mean, I guess it's for the diversity, right? Like, you would think, hey, you know, after playing your ice level, you don't want to play another ice level, but why even theme the worlds like that then? I think, you know, in the older Crash games, you kind of had the same. In 3, like in 1 or 2, they weren't really themed, but in the third games, they were also themed a little bit, and even then, you know, it just makes you think, come on, mix them together. But yeah, I think that's a nitpicky thing that doesn't really matter, but it makes me think, dude, that's one of the golden rules. Like, imagine in Mario, you go the ice world into it, and then you suddenly have a lava level instead of ice. It doesn't really fit, does it? But again, you know, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, that's basically everything I have to say about this game. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it just felt a forgettable experience. Nothing about the game really, there was not a single thing that I would probably remember after I finish this video up. There won't be anything that makes me think, wow, cool. Obviously the older Crash games maybe weren't also like the wowing things, but you know, I have nostalgic feelings for them and they are fun to play. This one didn't feel as great to play, and that's, I think, the worst thing about the game, that it is not just that fun to play. So yeah, if you like Crash, I think it's probably something that you should have played, but it is not a must-play title, you know. And you know, eventually I will get to play Quinsanity, which is for many people an underrated one. I have never seen people saying this is underrated, so hopefully, whoopsie, I should recut this, but I don't want to really. I just, how long did I record now? Like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, this part of the video. I don't want to recut it just because I burped. Sorry, I apologize, and you know, have fun. I hope you had fun with the video. If you had it, yeah, then I did everything right. If you didn't have fun, I apologize. And again for the burp. So maybe see you next time when I beat my 5th GameCube game of the challenge. You know, only 647 to go, basically.